Wheelchair-bound Valerie Joseph gets picked up curbside every morning at her home in the outskirts of New York City. Her ride to work is made possible through Access-A-Ride, part of the city's public transportation system.
It's $2.75 base fare going from and to. You can get 2 round trips a day.
Sounds like a good deal if you qualify, but trips must be booked 24 hours in advance, and her commute with other passengers can take up to 2 hours each way. Nearly 150,000 disabled New Yorkers rely on public transportation. That includes the city's aging subways. New York's subway system has the lowest rate of wheelchair accessibility of any major transit system in the United States. Only a quarter of its stations are accessible, and that's when the elevators are working. Jose Hernandez described one instance recently when they were not.
I had to go out of my way something like 16 subway stops before I could find an elevator that was working. That journey alone took me an additional 2 hours.
Improve elevator performance.
Disability advocates have had to resort to protests like this and lawsuits just to try to get the Public Transit Authority to comply with an existing law that requires stations be made accessible whenever they undergo major renovations. Just as they sued to win an agreement to make 50% of New York's yellow taxis handicapped accessible by 2020.
But then Uber showed up and were allowed to operate without any regulation. So our agreement is at risk. The amount of accessibility with 60,000 inaccessible vehicles added to the city streets is just not what it should be.
Lack of access to transportation, advocates say, is one reason less than 30% of disabled people in New York City work. Valerie is one of them, and a plaintiff in one of several lawsuits against Uber, demanding they make more of their cars accessible.
I am a taxpayer. I go to work. I have a life, and I need to get around. So I can't always plan my life on a 9 to 5.
And she is willing to fight so people like her can have not only a job, but also a life outside of it. Kristen, Saloomey, Al Jazeera, New York.